afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this, your afternoon safari. It's a perfect time for siesta, and it's a perfect time for Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. You are live, you are live.
And good afternoon again, everyone. My name is James Henry. On camera today is Kanda, the Eggs Foster. He's from Cape Town, of course, and so he will be ragged and basically lampooned for all of the time that he works here. It's lovely to have you with us on this, our sunset safari. The sun is not setting yet, and siesta is just over for these impala. They've been lying on the ground here, chewing the cud, enjoying the sun. Now, it's 22 degrees Celsius, 72 degrees Fahrenheit, with a cool breeze blowing out of the northwest. And the coolth of that breeze is evidenced by the fact that these impala, which usually chase the shade in the middle of the day, were lying in the full sun. So it's a coolish day when the wind is blowing. Otherwise, the temperature is actually very pleasant indeed. You are on a live safari. Talk to us, please. Hashtag SafariLive. If you're on Twitter, you use the hashtag SafariLive. Otherwise, talk to us on the email questions@wildearth.tv. We're broadcasting to you from the middle of the Kruger National Park, the western fringes thereof. I don't know why it is that I say the middle of the Kruger National Park every single time and then have to say, well, the western fringes thereof. We are on the western fringes of the Kruger National Park on a little spit of land called Djuma. Arathusa to the west, Cheetah Plains to the east, and we'll see what we can find. We didn't find much in the way of big hairy cats this morning, and so we'll see what we can come up with today. My plan's going to be to head from waterhole to waterhole, just because it's been a sort of cloudless day, and I think it's a good time for the animals to go down and drink. Whether the animals will think that or not is another matter entirely. On the other vehicle, when eventually she gets going, is Wendy. Wendy is the car. She is a bag. Very recalcitrant old bat, then not nearly as recalcitrant, definitely not a bat. Ultimately elegant Jamie Patterson will be driving Wendy, and she will be being filmed by the, well, I mean, I think elegant is not something that Willem Doornbraak has ever been described as, but certainly full of character and looking like a miniature version of the great Paul Kruger himself. Right, that is the team. In the final control, Kirsten Max Smith on the vocals, and tapping away at the keys is Rebecca, as far as I can remember. It might be Geraldine. If it is Geraldine, I'm going to be in such trouble now. That's Rebecca. Phew. Okay. We had some lovely commentary today from a couple of new viewers, and one of them said, he just come across the stream, and he said, how is this live? How are they moving between the shots? Because Brent and I were driving, and obviously many of them, for those of you who are in the know, you'll know that we swap between the vehicles depending on who's got the best content. At the moment, the best content is a juvenile Swainson's Franklin over here. And it's quite nice sometimes just to remind people what we do and how we do it. The signal goes from the camera to an aerial, a big antenna at the back of the vehicle. It goes flying out to one of 4 repeaters that we have around here. It's a tower with a sort of receiver on it. That gets sent then to the final control. It goes into the final control, where Kirsten decides which of us she'd like to put on the main screen. So she's basically deciding who's got the best what. Rebecca is feeding her questions from Twitter and from email, and they are all swap roles between Jerry and Louise and Kirsty. And then it goes out of a big tower to a satellite to London, from where it reaches you. Barely a sort of hair's, or barely a breath after it's been filmed. There is the mother Swainson's spur fowl. They're now called spur fowl because the males do have spurs on the back of their legs, in that which you can imagine. Of course, there you can. That female's got some short spurs as well, but you can imagine. In fact, that must be a male with the spurs. That's interesting. So it's dad. I just assumed it was a female looking after the baby, but obviously it's dad. That's quite cool to see. But you know, I mean, you've heard of cockfighting, obviously, where people used to get male hens to fight with each other. And, well, I mean, it's a detestable sport, but that's what they used to use, those spurs that they have on the back of their feet. They were bred for those particularly nasty spurs. Isn't that interesting that Dad's there kind of walking around with the little one, and we're so often asked, and I think I began talking about this yesterday afternoon actually, we're so often asked about whether or not animals are good fathers. And normally the mammals are inescapably poor fathers by human standards, but the birds are fantastic, often. And there we have Dad and son. It could be, it's like Stefan and his son wandering off across the bush. Right, Jamie Patterson, the elegant antelope, is on the car. Let's go and find out what her plan is for the afternoon.
Good afternoon and welcome to the sunset safari, where nothing necessarily goes according to plan and nothing can spin your drive off the course that you had planned, quite like finding a fresh, crisp, fresh set of leopard tracks on top of everybody else's vehicle tracks, especially when VM tells you that he was here this morning with Brent checking this area thoroughly and these tracks were not there. So, interesting times. By the way, my name is Jamie, and I have VM on camera with me this afternoon, and this is really very exciting. I promise you, I just found these tracks as you came across to us. They're female, and it all ties into a story that I was going to tell you this morning, or this afternoon, regardless. I don't know why I keep insisting it is morning. I think it's because my morning didn't quite go according to plan. So this morning, I went out to go on bushwalk. Didn't quite go according to plan. Things seem to be, there was a bit of an attack of the gremlins, let's put it that way. And as a result, Herbert and I ended up going out tracking instead. And we found this enormous drag mark in the middle of the western boundary of Djuma. Clearly Shadow, she went back to fetch her cubs. When she came back to the kill, she'd lost it. So Shadow's a female leopard with a 5-month-old cub, and she disappeared from that area. Her tracks vanished, just gone. But they were backwards, forwards, all around. Nobody figured out where she went. I think she came here, and I think that these are her tracks. Perfectly fresh, which is the best set to look at. Let me get my Shadow out of the way. Perhaps if we look at this one here, I know it's a female just by the size of the tracks. They're tiny. They're roughly the size of my hand. I mean, my palm, that is, not even my fingers. And they've got the 3 lobes at the back. There's nothing that is quite so perfect as a leopard track. And these tiny little tracks, the front track is here, the back track is here. These are the toes. Nothing quite says leopard as perfectly as these paw prints do. So she's going that way, straight that way. I'm just checking to see if she didn't have her cub with her, because she must have gone. She did definitely go to fetch her cub. And bear with me, I just want to double check something relatively quickly, and I have a feeling that it's going to make VM's life a little bit awkward. She didn't, oh, she did come through here. She did. She came through here. Somewhere in these 2 directions. She's not on that termite mound, no. All this is so exciting because there is definitely, most definitely, a female leopard walking through this area sometime between drives. I checked this road with Herbie earlier, so did Brent and VM. Elephants have walked on top of tracks, which doesn't make life all that easy. She went this way. We're going to go around and check Impala plains first. I'm going to get on the radio to call Herbert, because we were on the mission together this morning to go searching for her. We got so distracted by the size of the drag mark of her kill. Honestly, it looked like she'd killed a small buffalo. It really did. It was huge. And we don't think it was a small buffalo. We think it was a kudu. A small buffalo would be a little bit excessive when talking about a female leopard's kill ability. But it was probably an adult kudu, which for Shadow would have been a really impressive kill. And really, it is quite sad that she lost it to the hyenas. But that was, I mean, that was really, truly a massive very ambitious decision on her part. And then to leave it on the ground, which she must have done to go back and fetch her cub. Definitely things didn't go according to plan for poor Shadow. While we go and search the termite mounds in her various favorite spots, let's go back over to James, who has arrived at Sydney's Dam.
There, everybody, is Eggs' favourite animal. Well, he's been asking about them since he arrived here, and there we are. Not a great view of a hippo, but not too bad. But for Eggs, you know, we'd have to go and find him a decent hippo. Eggs, are you pleased with your hippopotamus?
Very.
There you are. Excellent. Not much else coming down to Sydney's Dam, so we're going to move straight along to go off towards Buffelshoek Dam. There are a few Birchall starlings also. There's one over there. There we go. Very nice. Okay, let's carry on off towards Buffelshoek Dam. Ah, Marianne, you're in Arkansas and you'd quite like to see a close-up of an elephant's eye socket. Well, we'll try and do that for you. Of course, getting close to elephants can be a sort of extreme sport, but they've been very relaxed of late, so maybe we'll be lucky and we'll be able to see an elephant at close quarters. An elephant's eye socket. We do have the long lens, so that will also help us. Now all we need is an elephant. And I'm hoping maybe at one of these waterholes. We're going to go to Buffelshoek waterhole, but it's not particularly clean water there, and so, I mean, the elephants might come and toss some mud on themselves, but they're not going to stop and drink there and play about for too long, I don't think. Normally they wouldn't. So we're on the northern boundary now, the Buffelshoek cut line, and we're going to go all the way until it terminates on the cheetah cut line and then feed down to Buffelshoek Dam. The lions were found north of us today. I think just a mating pair. I think that was the only ones that were found. The rest of the tracks from the pride that was eating a waterbuck just south of here yesterday crossed north into Buffelshoek, so there were no lions on Djuma this morning. There weren't any on Arathusa either, and on Cheetah Plains I don't think they had much more luck either. So it was a very quiet morning of glorious birds, I must say, lots of nice birds, but otherwise not a great deal of action. There's another starling. There you are, Zander. Now, we had an incredible sighting of some greater blue-eared glossy starlings today. Now, that is either a greater blue-eared glossy starling or a Cape glossy starling. It is a Cape glossy. Is it? Oh, obviously it relieved itself because I'm looking at it. We need to actually hear it call before we can be completely sure. I think it's actually a greater blue-eared. Come on, say something. Speak. That's what a greater blue-eared sounds like. Not speaking. Very nice. I've just had enough of that. Right, on we go. There it is. Didn't go far. It's just there. Never mind. Find another one. And we found a whole lot of them eating jackalberries this morning. Now, of course, that is it's not their preferred food, you know. They're insect eaters, but there's not much in the way of insects at the moment, and so they will have to make do with fruit. If I do excuse my squinting at you when I look you in the eye, everyone, it's just the sun is rather bright behind us. It's a very fresh afternoon. There's a bit of a... Oh, hang on. Let's quickly have a look here. was a spider hunting wasp, but it looked like it was moving quite slowly and that we might be able to get a nice view of it. But it's flown off. And I probably won't spend too long trying to track the spider hunting wasp. Let's go and find out about Jamie's leopard tracks.
Oh, while you have been with James, I have called in the reinforcements and let Herbert know. Herbert was at camp. He is now on his way, striding rapidly forth, I imagine, along the road to come and give us a hand with the tracks. I'm just doing a quick loop of the area to make sure she didn't pop out somewhere on the road. She didn't, but somebody else just has. Hello, little ones. Oh, this is one of my favorite dwarf mongoose groups. They are so relaxed with people and with vehicles that I once managed with my camera to just sneak on my belly right up to about, I would say, probably about 6 feet or so from them. And weren't scared at all. They were actually kind of curious, watching me about to go down into their tunnels for the evening. These are called dwarf mongoose, and they are the smallest mammalian carnivore out here, renowned for their amazing social structure. And for some reason, this particular group has decided that the termite mound holes right in the middle of the road are the best possible place for them to settle down and have a safe spot. And just hold on one moment. I'm just going to chat to Herbert on the Game Drive channel. Standing by. No problem, I'm on my way. I just wanted to loop power lines quickly, but I'll come through for you now. Herbert's just asking me if I mind giving him a lift. James, sorry. I got distracted on my way to go and fetch him by the dwarf mongoose. As I said, it's a peculiar spot for them to pick, because I always feel terribly guilty now. I need to be there, and they're sort of in the middle of the road. There isn't really any way through them without, there's no way around them. We have to sort of go over them. There's no need to worry about them. They'll duck down and then they'll pop straight back up again as soon as we have gone past. I wonder what went on last night. Depending on how this afternoon's goes, and of course, as you know, it's very unpredictable, we're going to go back and we'll have a look at the drag mark, and I'll show you what I mean about where Shadow very clearly lost her kill to the hyenas, and perhaps even go back and check for tracks for her cub. But I think she left her cub on Arethusa, so if she's striding back towards Arethusa, which she is, then perhaps she's made another kill and she's gone back to fetch her cub. I just realized something. We're being watched. Here's a little steenbok. He would most definitely be on Shadow's menu if she came through this area. Hello, little girl. One of my absolute... I love this particular steenbok. She is so relaxed. He lets us sit and watch her for ages at a time. And the reason I know that it's her is because we see her in this area all the time. Well, I hear that for this afternoon, while our steenbok disappears off, I hear that for this afternoon, one of our viewers has requested a close-up of an elephant's eye. Let us go over to James and see if he can provide that.
Right, Marianne, there is your elephant. Now, let's see if we can zoom its eye. It's not very close to us. Watch this, Marianne. Pow! There you are. Very nice. Eggs? Good job. There we are, Marianne. And it's your birthday today. Happy birthday, Marianne. And I hope you enjoy the look that elephant's giving you. I know exactly why you wanted to look at that. Well, I think I do. It's just as it's a wizened old eye, isn't it? That's very comforting to look at, I find. So it's a fairly large, spread out herd of elephants here. And in fact, you know what? There's one lying down there. Hang on a second. No, it's not lying down. It was just thinking about lying down. I'm just going to sneak forward. There's a little one off to the left-hand side there. And it's playing in a hole. And it was thinking about lying down. Bored because all the others do is just eat and eat and eat. No playing, just eating. And that one's little trunk doesn't work so well for eating. It's a bit floppy and doesn't quite operate. And it gets plenty of nutrition from the milk that it still drinks. So it doesn't quite understand why everybody insists on eating all day long. They are so sweet, those little things. And all the time there'll be communication going on here with these elephants. There's running away from a much bigger one coming into view. Looks like a... hang on a second. Must be a cow, surely. Obviously not a cow that is particularly fond of the little one, unless it's mum, who's giving some discipline. Oh, just listen behind us. Oh, I know, we know her. That's our short-trunked female. We know her very well. This is her little family, which is obviously increased because there are quite a few elephants around here. But I think just in this group, probably her 4. But I can kind of hear a lot more of them. All off to the sort of northern side here. So peaceful. We watched those impala having their little siesta. Now, they are largely feeding on the red bush willow. So the first one that we looked at, that's the one. No, hang on a second. Let me just roll back a little. Handa, that one there, yes, is eating red bush willow. And I was reading about red bush willows today, but mainly because there are so many of them at the moment, and we had a very quiet morning. And I thought, well, you know, that's a tree I can always stop next to. And I've been saying that it's not great forage, that it's kind of got a lot of chemical defensive mechanisms in it. And the book that I was reading begged to differ with me and said that it is actually good forage, especially even, or at least even for cattle. And that the fallen down leaves, the leaves on the ground, are actually also very good forage. So I think that's quite interesting, because you don't see a huge number of animals going for that stuff. But apparently it is good forage. It's also massively dense. The humble red bush willow, its density is 1,230 kilograms per cubic meter. Now that's more than a ton per cubic meter, which means that it is denser than water. Which means what? It sinks. Well done. Zander, of course, is an artiste, not a physicist. Hello, Fiona. Lovely to hear from you. Please do remember to tell us where you're from. It's always so nice to know where in the world we're hearing from. Fiona, you want to know about whether they have multiple stomachs, like a ruminant, like a cow. No, they don't. They have one stomach, but what they have that differs from ours is they have a very large cecum. Now, a cecum is basically an enlarged... I think I'm correct. Yes, I am correct. It's an enlarged appendix. Now, you know where your appendix is. If you touch your belly button, move your hand over to the right-hand side, give yourself a bit of a prod in there, and your appendix is there. And it's a vestigial part of your large intestine. That means that you don't really use it anymore. It's kind of lost its usefulness as our dependence on vegetables as a sole source of food has disappeared. But in an animal like this, the cecum is much larger, and it carries a lot of bacteria which help the stomach to digest much of the grass and the structural material in grass. And that is best illustrated actually with something like a zebra. And we're going to move up the road because there's another elephant there, and it keeps sticking its nose into the floor, so I'm not sure exactly what it's looking at. Let's go and have a look. Hello, Gracie, aged 8. It's wonderful to hear from you again. I've missed you too. You say you've missed me, well, I've missed you more. And we'd love, it's very, very good to hear from you again. And I hope you're feeling well. And you want to know about Bob, your friend Bob, the bachelor of Biffleshoek, a hippopotamus that lives in Biffleshoek sometimes. Gracie's not there. I don't know where he is, because there's no water in Biffleshoek Dam. We'll go there now, and you'll see that there really isn't much water at all. So we'll go and have a look-see, and maybe he'll be lying there in the mud, but he wasn't there the last time I went. Let's first have a look at these elephants, though. And of course, Gracie, aged 8, is not going to be Gracie, aged 8 for very long. Soon she will be Gracie, aged 9. Where are you going? That's interesting, from Lucy in South Bend, Indiana. Lucy, you say it's normal that we're seeing a greater number of elephants with one or no tusks. I'm just trying to think if we are. I'm not sure that we are seeing more of them. Elephants with no tusks is a genetic issue, so that's, you know, they're born without tusks. It doesn't seem to harm them too much. Elephants with one tusk normally have broken their tusks off, so in a drought situation like this, it's possible, I suppose, more elephants would be breaking their tusks because they have to eat so much more in the way of roots. They're digging roots out of the ground, they're grinding bark off of the trees. So I guess it's possible that there may be a few more with one tusk around. But I do know what you mean. We have seen quite a few elephants with no tusks of late. I think it's just coincidence, Lucy. And like I say, that's a genetic thing. It's just it's a function of the fact that they are born without tusks. And well, they're all born without tusks, but they never develop them. And I saw one the other day. We saw it on Cheetah Plains. Was it on Cheetah Plains? No, I don't think it was on Cheetah Plains, but she had no tusks, and she had a calf with her that was more than 2 years old, so about 3 years old, also no tusks erupted yet, so probably would have inherited that from her mother. Right, on we go. They've all gone off into Biffleshoek, I'm afraid, so we can't follow them. We'll carry on towards the waterhole. Just have a look at this tree quickly. Oh, stiff. Now, this is a marula tree that was not pushed over, I don't believe, by elephants. I believe that this probably blew over. You can see it snapped here. And it snapped here because the wood obviously rotted inside, as evidenced by this fungus over here, called a bracket fungus. I'm going to point at it with my right foot. There it is. It's like a mushroom that's grown from the inside, rotted the heartwood out, and then it's fallen over. And again, I mean, I've been banging on about this for a while, but this looks like elephant damage. Well, if you happen to be a bracket fungus, it isn't damage at all. It's a home. If you happen to be one of the wood borer beetles that's dug holes like this here, Well, that's actually a woodpecker that's done that. If you happen to be a wood borer that's dug some of the holes here and laid your eggs in it, well, then it's a home as well, and it's a place to put your eggs. If you happen to be a woodpecker that eats the grubs from those beetles, well, then this is not damage in the slightest. It's a source of food that wouldn't have been here but for the elephants. And if you live like some of the scorpions do, I'm just going to break it. I don't want to break the whole thing off. Might be difficult not to. I'll just bring this up to you. I couldn't find anything in there. I mean, we could rip it off and I'm sure we'd find a whole lot, but that wouldn't be very sensitive. But you can see here, that's a whole lot of soil. That's born of termites living inside here, so they don't think this is elephant damage in the slightest. There is some silk from spiders that have lived under here. They don't think it's elephant damage, and you will definitely find scorpions living somewhere underneath that bark. So, although this might look like damage to us, it's not damage. It's habitat creation and habitat modification, which is not a bad thing at all. And it's important to bear that in mind. And I wish a few more people would bear that in mind when they say, oh, but the trees are being pushed over by the elephants. Yes, well, that's what they do, really. And they've been pushing trees over for millennia. Probably for longer than we've been around as a species. Very nice. On we go. Let's go while I drive quite quickly towards Buffelshoek Dam to find out how Shadow's tracking expedition is going.
Shadow's tracking is going very, very well. As you can see, we have found ourselves back, sort of having done a full loop. So while you were with James and the elephant, I ran back, well, no, not ran back, that would be a severe exaggeration. Drove the vehicle back to camp, picked up Herbert, and dropped him off where we left the tracks. Now what I'm doing is while Herbert walks towards me, I'm doing a big circle to make sure he doesn't waste too much time walking in the block if she's somewhere here. And I'm really, really excited. Hello, little guys. I'm sorry. Just one more time, I promise, and then I'm gone. Promise. Unless Shadow comes back here. Oh, my word. Herbert's there already. Oh, I drove over the tracks. He's going to be cross with me. Affirmative. Okay, copy. I'm on my way. Herbert says she crossed south and she's now on her way towards Impala Plains, which is kind of where we were going anyway. So what we're going to do is we're going to race up. Herbie's going to jump on the back and then we're going to carry on a little bit down the road. Let us go and see what we can find. We spoke about the fact that Shadow killed something particularly large some point last night, and probably a kudu. And Debbie was wondering if Shadow could physically have hoisted an adult kudu. The answer, Debbie, is I really, really don't think so. So Shadow, of course, is notoriously bad at hoisting as it is. Now, if you add to the fact if she can't hoist an adult impala, she definitely won't be able to hoist an adult kudu. It was an ambitious thought, and it was one that I think she may have gone on to regret. But leopards are opportunists, so whether or not they can hoist the kill is not the first and foremost thought in their mind. Hello, Herbie.
Hello.
I'm going to move so you can jump on. I'm sure she's going to go towards Impala Plains. Yeah. Okay. Say hello, everyone.
Hello, everyone.
Yay, so we've got Herbert on. Herbert the Master Tracker. Let's go find Shadow. I've just got a feeling this is really worth putting a lot of effort in. I'm sure she's around here somewhere. I think somebody's trying to talk to me as well, so bear with me 1 second. Standing by. Afternoon tax. I think we're on Power Lines Road now between Impala Plains and Wurtele Main Access. The tracks are going south. If maybe you could check Zoe's for us. We're going to check Impala Plains. Copy that, thank you. Yay! So we're getting help here. The reason I'm so excited, I'm excited for a couple of reasons. One is that the story started this morning with Herbert and myself talking about this enormous kill that Shadow had made and the fact that she'd lost it. And let me tell you the story of this. So we jump off for the drag mark, astounded at the size of this thing. And both Herbert and myself are so distracted that we don't realize that there's several buffalo, probably about, I don't know, let's not exaggerate here, probably about 30 meters away from us, staring at us, watching Herbert and myself staring at the ground. So I happened to lift my head first and sort of went, Herbert, there's some buffalo. They weren't very bothered by us at all, but it was a really interesting twist that the afternoon took. The other reason I'm really excited is because a year ago, probably almost to the day, maybe a little bit more, this was the very first time I ever tracked Shadow and Sindile on foot in exactly the same place. So she'd gone back now. Sindile, as we know, has grown up with a whole different backstory. But at the time, Sindile was spending a lot of time with Shadow. He was only about a year old. And it was the first time I had ever tracked a leopard that was so incredibly relaxed on foot. Because I was about 10 meters away when I first saw him. Shadow was on the other side of the termite mound, crunching at a daker. And there was Sindile just looking at me, as he always did. It was amazing. So it would be very, very nice if we could repeat that process now, a year later, maybe even with a different cub, with Shadow's current cub. That would be absolutely marvelous. Because I'm just wondering if she hasn't gone back to fetch the little one from Arethusa. Perhaps while she was away, she made a kill after the hyenas got hers. I'm curious to hear why James was racing off towards Buffelshoek and what is happening over there. Let's go over and see what's happening at one of the local water holes.
The local waterhole has got one juvenile grey heron, a blacksmith lapwing, a lot of bacteria, much algae, no hippopotamus, and I suspect quite a few terrapins, many of whom will now be becoming quite nervous at the fact that the water seems to be running short. And I'm pretty sure that it would have dried out had it not been for that rain that we had a few weeks ago. I'm just looking in the bushes to the north and east of the dam, because the lions often like to come there, but I think they're probably all still on Buffelshoek, although it has been a cool day, like I said. But maybe there will be a leopard. I can't see a leopard. Can you see a leopard? Eggs? And Fiona, you're wondering if we get marabou stalks here? We do, you know. The best place to see a marabou stalk at the moment is probably the Arethusa Dam, which is now the Arethusa Mud Wallow. And in the Arethusa Mud Wallow you will find many kinds of catfish, or many catfish, and they will be the good food for marabou stalks. They are not resident, so they're kind of nomadic. Oh, I'm going to get back to you on that. So marabou stalks, not many here, but let's quickly go across to Jamie. I'm just going to investigate a little bit further here. She's got something really quite fun for you, Gracie.
I do indeed have something quite fun. I have a flaw in our plan of action in terms of tracking down Shadow, and that is a very large hippo, very resolutely standing in the middle of the road. And this is why tracking at this time of year, it pays to be extra specially vigilant, perhaps not focus too much on the tracks, because you never know when you might find one of these hippopotamuses wallowing in the various puddles that are around the area at the moment, and making use of them, particularly when dams are in short supply, or water in general is in short supply, and they find themselves with a... Bless you, Herbert. They find themselves with a severe lack of space, which means ultimately finding themselves in these pans. And now what? We have reached an impasse. He's 2 tons, together with Wendy, Herbert, and Vim. All of us combined, we're probably about maybe 1. It seems like we should pick our battles rather wisely, don't you agree? And perhaps decide that discretion is the better part of valor. Look at him, he hasn't moved. So he is scared. He's not scared. He is nervous because he's not near water. And now we've come around the corner and he's trying to decide exactly what course of action he's going to take. He doesn't want to go running off into the bushes because it's quite warm this afternoon. And then he's got to come back to his mud wallow. At the same time, hippos feel safest in water. And a muddy puddle, as useful as it is, definitely doesn't count as a safe spot. So now his question is what to do. And when an animal's body language goes completely still like this, you know that they're thinking. They're thinking about what they're going to do next. Elephants do it. Leopards and lions not so much, because very often they give themselves away, particularly if they're irritated, with a tail that starts to flick like that. But hippos, elephants, rhino as well, usually the first sign that they are alert to your presence and trying to figure out what to do next is this complete stillness. Now he could do one of 2 things if we go forward. One is run away. That's the most likely scenario in this, because he doesn't feel completely trapped, or he shouldn't feel completely trapped, but you don't want to project your own thoughts into an animal's head in terms of predicting what they're going to do. Or 2, he could come running at the vehicle, which of course we would prefer to avoid. Not prefer to avoid, we are going to avoid. That's not going to be allowed to happen because, poor boy, he's just looking for a little bit of shelter from the sun. But it is amazing, isn't it, to see them out of water like this. Is something that we often get asked for, and something that we can't often provide in terms of sightings. What you gonna do, boy? What we gonna do, Slight shift to the head. The reason that James said this would be a treat for a special certain someone is that it is one of her favorite animals. I'm glad we had a hippopotamus this afternoon. This could well be the one from Red Dam. In fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised. And I can't really make that assumption. It's a dangerous assumption to make. But we do know what's happening at Red Dam at the moment. For those of you who missed the sunrise safari, currently at Red Dam there is a pile of hyenas, a hyena clan, with a dead buffalo in the water, which is very common for hyena behavior because they drag their carcasses into the water. Nobody knows why. One of the suggestions is that it's because it keeps other animals from finding it by smell. The other suggestion is that actually they maybe quite like, this is actually, promise you, this is something I read in a textbook that put forward a theory that they quite like the mushiness of the meat once it starts to sort of get soaked up in the water, and kind of like a stew in a really, really gross way. A really gross stew. I'm just waiting for Shadow to come out here, because I feel like that's the way the afternoon could go. That if we sit with this hippo long enough, Shadow will just pop her nose out. Okay, and so we find ourselves with a roadblock. Absolutely, Paul. From the dwarf mongoose to the hippopotamus, it seems my route is being blocked by wherever the animals happen to be. Or perhaps my route, perhaps that bodes well, Paul. Perhaps the next roadblock will be a leopard standing in the middle of the road. Shame. Obviously we're not going to push past the hippo. We'll have to go all the way around. And Monique in London, you were wondering, could I give him a wide berth to go around him? Yes, maybe. The difficulty there is that it's going to make a noise. There's no easy route around him, unfortunately. I am going to go around him, but it means the long way round, all the way towards Zoe's Road and around, or back onto Triple M and around. We can't really go past him. Even by giving him a wide berth, as soon as I do that, as soon as I start moving into his space, he's going to feel more threatened. And then, either he's going to run away, which I'd rather not, I'd rather that wasn't the outcome, or he's going to feel even more trapped. And if we're off-road, we've run out of escape routes. So it's much more difficult for us to get away from. If he were just on the sheer off chance to come towards us, we'd just go backwards, and we'd be absolutely fine. And there you go, a question coming through from Paula, and that is the fact that the hippopotamus, oh, Laura, sorry, not Paula, Laura. I'm sorry, there's something wrong with my hearing today. So Laura's question, or Laura has heard, that the human hippopotamus casualties number amongst the highest in Africa, in fact, #1 ranked in Africa, and was wondering a little bit about that, and perhaps that is absolutely the case, apart from the mosquito. So in terms of mammal deaths, the hippo causes the most out of all of the mammals in Africa. The mosquito causes the most human deaths because, of course, it's the vector of malaria. But it's an unfair I feel it's an unfair reputation because, first of all, where do people build their homes? Around water. Now, that's the first place that they will build their homes. Where do hippopotamus feel the most safe? Around water. Where do they feel the most threatened? When somebody is between them and water, which is what invariably happens. And usually people go and visit the river systems early in the morning, or they visit them in the late afternoons after they've done a day's work. Again, trapping the hippopotamus, especially mothers with babies. It's so easy because for a 2-ton animal, these guys are surprisingly quiet. It's incredibly easy for a human being to accidentally come between them and their escape route, or between them and their calf. And then you find yourself with a very dangerous situation on your hand. And Laura, there's a suspicion that crocodile deaths may outnumber those caused by hippopotamus, but the difference is, of course, hippopotamus don't eat their victims, or at least not much. Crocodiles, when people are killed by crocodiles, half the time nobody knows exactly what's happened to them because they've just disappeared. And nothing, they might not even have told anyone that they were going down to the river. They've just vanished. So, of course, crocodile deaths are not recorded. And there you go, another reason why perhaps the death rate is so, or the human hippo conflict is so high, is because they actually, though they don't look at, they're surprisingly quickly. And I'm going to finish that sentence in 1 second. I just want to hear what Tax has to say, because he's helping us try and look for shadow. Standing by. Power lines between Impala Road and where Power Lines joins the main access road. So they came south from Aubrey's Junction and then crossed over the power lines south into that block between Impala and Zoe's. What have you got there, Viam? Oh, how wonderful. Circling vultures, probably attracted to that buffalo. That's affirmative. If I had to guess, it would be a guess, but I would say shadow from where she lost her kill last night on Triple M. Copy, but the Nkonzo on Aubrey's Road are definitely fresh. They're on top of our tracks from this morning. Sorry, everybody. Okay, copy. We've stopped at an Mvubu on Impala Road in that pan that's between the power lines and Impala Plains, Balanites Junction. There's an Mvubu here. Okay, I'm so sorry about that long conversation. It's not over yet. That's affirmative. Just planning our search for this particular leopard, and Daxon was saying no, but Aubrey called in tracks crossing this morning, which he did, but they're not as fresh as the tracks that we had crossing Aubrey's road, so we just had to look at that. How awesome is that? See, he's relaxed again, lying back down in the mud. Sorry, I was in the middle of answering Maggie's question in Australia, which was the fact that yes, hippos, despite the fact that they look fat and lumbering, many of us, all of us, I think, as guides, can attest to the fact that they are not fat and slow. They might be large, they're just big-boned, okay, with a big layer of fat as well, but they're big animals, but they are very, very fast. So hippopotamus, Maggie, can move or cover about 13 to 15 meters per second, which is, what's that? That's up to 45 feet per second if they really want to. When they're up to full speed, you cannot outrun a hippopotamus. And also, they're a lot more agile than they look. So turning quickly, being able to go down steep banks. They can't climb and they can't jump, but they can go down steep banks, up steep banks. I'm going to keep chatting with Tax about where these leopard tracks have gone, and then I'm going to make my way all around this hippopotamus. While we do, let's go back to James for an update.
James's only update is that he has so far failed to find anything that has a heartbeat. Not even a bird since I last saw you. We are now into the say that again, the Mloamati drainage, and we're going to go all the way down here and just see if our great queen Kurula has not crossed back over to the north from the south this morning. I'm also wanting to get hold of a knobthorn flower, the first signs of the lengthening day. We've seen a few of them with flowers on them, and it would be quite nice to retrieve one and sniff it so that we can give Eggsy his first smell of the spring. There we have some terrified impala. Why are you running? You see us every day. Never mind. Let's carry on down here. It is the one thing about those things, not so much the impala, but the buffalo especially, so nervous of us. Hello, X-Ranger. Wanting to know about termite mounds and whether their shape will change as a result of the drought. I'm just trying to understand in what context you're asking the question. So they won't. I mean, they won't weather. They're not going to weather away as a result of the. They're not going to weather away as a result of the drought. They won't be built as much without water underneath the surface. So the termites do kind of need water so that they can build up the chimneys. Without that, I suppose they'd grow much slower. So maybe they grow more slowly during the drought times. But otherwise, no, I don't think they'll change shape a great deal. Now, we are just sitting here, hoping to see something interesting. Are we not, Eggsy? Eggsy, of course, is now astounded that I'm not touching the steering wheel. Hello, Dispatch Griffin. I do so enjoy your name. Dispatch Griffin, you want to know if all of the fungus out here is bad to eat or if some of it is edible. No, much of it is edible, but you really, like anywhere in the world, you really got to understand which ones are okay and which ones are not. We get some very toxic ones here, and I think the most toxic one is something called a bush blackcap. In fact, that's a bird species, but there's something called a black cap that's very bad for you, and I'll try and find you a picture of it here as we drive along. You will tell me if we're about to drive into an elephant, won't you? Thank you. Or a leopard. Either will do. Let me see. Right. So here are all the fungi that we get here. And that one there, for example, It's called a shaggy ink cap. That will kill you if you try and eat the shaggy ink cap. Not very good for you at all. But those sorts of things, you can eat some of the others though. But just like at any part of the world, like I say, you need to be careful of which ones you eat. Hoping desperately for some flowers or some animals. Alternatively, we'll just enjoy our little boat ride down the Mloamashi drainage line. And I am indeed very relaxed. Kirsten says I look very relaxed. I'm not sure if that was a compliment or an admonition, but I'm certainly extremely relaxed driving down the river in our little boat. Watch out for the tree there, Khanda. There we go. Yes, I think we'll fix on a name for Zander now, and that will be Eggsy. Eggs when we're really cross with him, Eggsy when we are feeling friendly toward him. And that will be very good, and he'll take that home, and his parents will wonder what manner of idiots he works with. Kirsten has said to me that Eggs Benedict is his formal name now. It's not very long, any. There's still nothing much going on here. We will find something, I promise everyone. Let's just give Jamie a bit of a chance to try and track that leopard. Be nice to see her. Now, is Ariel going to make it under here, Eggsy? I've just spotted another tattoo on the man, so I've got to tell you, he's inked up like a book. I didn't know better. I'd swear he was a South Sea Islander. Perhaps a Maori. Maori, are you? Small to be a Maori. Ah. Marion, you say we recently had a national election. We did. It's called the local government elections, and we voted for municipality. I'm not wherever you how it works wherever you are, Marion. I'm not sure which part of the world you're getting hold of us from, but we have 2 votes. 2 years or 2.5 years or so into the term of the government. It's called election where we vote for municipalities and districts and wards, and which is slightly distinct from the national election, which puts the government in power. So this is all local government. And we voted, yes, we did vote here. There's a little village just outside the reserve called Dixie, and Dixie has a voting station. It was the most painless voting experience I've ever had. It took roughly 3.5 minutes from start to finish. We walked in there. I think 300 registered voters in Dixie. Well, most of them gone before us or went after us, but we all drove out there towards Dixie. It took us about, literally 3.5 minutes to vote, and we came home. So it was very easy. It was much easier than trying to vote in a town, actually. And there have been some nice political changes. I think a political shake-up, of course, is a good thing. Basically, if you're going to be a politician, you're probably quite a nasty piece of work anyway, so it's quite nice to have a change. Right, I'm going to continue down the water here, and we'll go across to Jamie. 1 second here. Let's just see if I can get this bird before we go across to her. She doesn't have the leopard yet. There's a tiny little bird here that's sat. Right, there it goes. Did you see it fly? Eggsy? No, it's gone. Alright, we're going to keep going down here. Hopefully we'll have something to show you by the time you come back to us. Let's go back to Jamie and see how she's doing.
I am doing fantastically well right now because not only did Herbert join us, but the cavalry has as well. Or, well, perhaps cavalry is the wrong description. However, Taxon and Aubrey and both of their trackers have joined in the search. Aubrey has also made it a competition. He just smiled at me in that laconic way that Aubrey has. He just smiled and said, "Don't worry, I'll call you when I find her." And of course now it's a competition to see which of us finds her first. The one advantage I have, of course, is that I can go on to Arethusa, which they cannot do. Now Aubrey and Herbert are now off the vehicle searching, and we're going around the hippopotamus. And there we go, lovely question coming through from Sabrina. Sabrina, as always, it is so lovely to hear from you. And I think that it's safe to say that Sabrina has become a regular fan of our live drives and has been inspired in terms of her plans for the future. But Sabrina would like to know how that hippopotamus would react to a leopard. It's a difficult one. It depends upon how close the leopard got. Chances are the leopard wouldn't actually go that close to the hippo, but they have a degree of comfort, and the animals are very good at reading each other's body language. So Shadow probably wouldn't have gone close enough if she happened to stroll through that area. She wouldn't have gone close enough to upset our hippopotamus friend. And she might just have skirted past the edges, at which point the hippo would feel comfortable with her. If perhaps she was distracted by something, she walked past the waterhole, she didn't see him, he might have charged her. So I've seen hippo, especially in these drought-stressed situations, I have seen hippopotamus. Oh my goodness. Okay. I'm reversing. I want to check my track before you drive over it. Okay, that's okay. It's not what I thought it was. Okay. So I have seen hippopotamus chase lions before, away from waterholes. They do get very antsy and uncomfortable, even in somewhere like Buffelshoek Dam. Thank you! So we've seen the situation or the scenario where... Oh, never mind, over to James with his bird.
Look what Eggsy found us, everybody. It's a brown-hooded kingfisher. You can see it is brown-hooded by the fact that it has a brown hood. Well done, very good, excellent job. And it is quite distinct from the woodland kingfisher, which is also one of the halcyon kingfishers, which means that it has that very halcyon blue on its back. But it is very different, and it's not migratory. The woodland kingfisher, the brown-hooded kingfisher, lives here permanently. Also not a fish-eating kingfisher, but a insect-eating kingfisher. And there's the reason the woodland don't hang around for the whole season is that there's just not much in the way of insects to eat. And this chap, because he lives here on his own, will manage to eke out a living. While you look at him, I'm just going to check exactly what his diet has been recorded as. Simply because I think it might be quite interesting to know what the difference between this one and the woodland is. Also geckos, so it'll probably look underneath the sort of bark and that sort of thing for geckos, skinks, young birds even, snakes, fish, crabs and rodents. They must be very small rodents indeed. Look at him, he's turned around to face us, isn't he wonderful? So that's the diet of the woodland, at least of the brown-hooded. And the woodland is largely insects and grasshoppers, but will also take birds, lizards, snakes and frogs. So this chap, I think, probably hunts things, or more frequently things like lizards and skinks, and possibly the odd gerbil. That's quite a spear-like bill. Now he's there, very nice, thank you for showing that to us. He's only about, I don't know, he's probably about 6 inches tall. Maybe a bit taller if you include his tail, maybe 8 inches. So he's not a large bird, and that bill is quite intimidating, I reckon. And if you happen to be in Australia, like I think X-Ranga is, closely related to the kookaburra, which is just a very large version of a kingfisher. Doing some important cleaning and fixing of the feathers. Very important. Have to keep the feathers perfectly in trim, otherwise you plummet out of the sky. It's exactly the same as maintaining the wings and, well, all the parts of an aeroplane. You know how often they're maintained, far more often than your car is. Same reason a bird is so fastidious about keeping his feathers or her feathers in good condition. This is everyone, this is a really special sighting. Ooh, you want to know what these birds sound like? The best way to do it is for me to play you the call. I will play it, but I don't want to upset him or her. But basically, the way to remember it, Tasha, is to say, pity for you, pity for you, pity for you. That's what they sound like. So here we go. Are you ready? That's it there. See? Pity for you. Pity for you. Oh, you see? He heard it, and he's come to look to see if there's another one. He's gone up into this leadwood tree here. I'm not going to play it again. I reckon it's fair game if you can do it with your mouth, but it's not so fair if you're playing him a recording. So I'm happy to do it with pearl-spotted owls in my own voice, but not with that poor bird. So that's the brown-hooded kingfisher.
Oh, dearie me, and it seems as though James's signal disappeared while he went on his adventure through the Mulwati. Lucky for us and for you, he was able to have signal while he showed you that amazing kingfisher. Not often we get one of those chaps to sit still long enough to put them on screen, so a lovely sighting. The search for Shadow continues, as you may have gathered by my constant checking over my right shoulder. Sure, she's somewhere. Let's just go check the repeater, just in case. You never know. Her tracks aren't here, but you never know. And sometimes gut instinct does pay off. But this is very, very close to where we had her the other morning, where Viam and myself, Viam actually spotted her sitting on top of the termite mounds. Herbert says that she's still coming in this direction. This is awesome. We've got so many people in the right place. We've got to find her. She's going to be here somewhere around. It's still a race between Aubrey and myself. Listening to the communication with Herbert. Come on, Shadow. And hopefully she's made a successful kill after having lost hers, or having lost hers to the hyena. We were talking about hippopotamus and their reaction to predators. We've seen before that the presence of predators, especially when they don't have enough water, if they're in a big, wide dam, I don't think Shadow's here. An interesting angle to the repeater, just by the way. Viam's camera is perfectly straight, as always. And Gary, a little bit less so. Oh well, on we go. So we were talking about hippos and the fact that if they've got a large body of water, they feel perfectly comfortable, because no self-respecting pride of lions or even hyena is going to go charging into the water to attempt to pull a hippopotamus out. However, when they feel a bit, oh my goodness. However, if they do not have enough water, then they do feel threatened and they become more aggressively defensive, is perhaps the right description. It seems as though James is having all the luck in the Mulwati. Let's go back to him and some primates this time.
It might be all the luck, but it is a huge amount. It is with us, the luck. Us with. So, vervet monkeys, and they are eating what I was trying to eat this morning, jackalberries. They're underneath that enormous jackalberry tree just next to Twin Dams, and some of them are actually in the tree eating the fruits. But they are not that enthusiastic. It will be a bit of long-toothed eating, spectacular or ebony tree. A wonderful Latin name, Diospirus mispiliformes. So if you're ever needing to warm your mouth up on a cold morning, you can say Diospirus mispiliformes a few times. Alternatively, you could put it in a sentence, for example, Benedict Cumberbatch doesn't like the fruit of Diospirus mispiliformes. That, of course, is completely ridiculous, but it's just as no more ridiculous than the rain in Spain, as falls mainly on the plain. So there they are, enjoying the fruits. Now, they are a primate, of course, which is obvious, but in South Africa, our diversity of primates is not enormous. We have the human being, we have the Chacma baboon, we have 2 monkey species, and 2 bush baby species. Now, throughout Africa, there are probably more than 40 species of primates, so it's very interesting that that's all we get in South Africa, which otherwise is an extremely diverse country. And they're the only species of monkey that we get here in this particular part of South Africa. And that's vervet. Now, we did a little bit of reading up, because I didn't know where the term vervet came from, and some of you sent through some answers as to where it came from. I think the basic sort of consensus was that vervet could well come from a French word vervant, if I'm not mistaken, which means green, because it did used to be known as the green monkey, and it's the same base of the word that we get verdant from, which verdant, of course, means green. So I think that's where vervet comes from, but the word vervet doesn't actually mean anything. There we go, look at it. The dexterity and strength, the power to weight ratio on an animal like this is just spectacular. And I mean, it looks like it's eating with fairly long teeth to me. You see it not sort of relishing it, trying to find something sweet and ripe, because they are quite sweet. Look at the tiny branch it's on. That monkey is probably about, I'm going to say 2.5 feet long, maybe 2 feet long. Probably weighs about, maybe 10 kilograms, if that. It's a very small thing. It's a slightly younger one. I'm just going to check what a fully grown male weighs, but I don't think much more than 30. Now, I mean, there are a lot of different kinds of primates that. Keaton, age 8, wonderful to hear from you. Thank you for talking to us. You want to know what happens to a person when they eat a jackalberry. Well, I'll show you just now. I'll show you shortly. But Keaton, they're actually really nice to eat when they're ripe. They're just not ripe at the moment, and so they don't taste very good. They taste, you know what you should try and find a, next time your mum goes to the shops, ask her to try and buy a green peach, a really green, unripe peach. And that's basically the taste that you'll get. Now, a big vervet monkey, only about 10 kilos only about 10 kilos, so they're not big. Oh, that's a grivet monkey. Hang on a second. Yeah, Only up to 8 kilos. Look at it. Hello, Debbie in Vancouver. Nice one for you. Why are there so few monkeys in South Africa? I think it's because we don't have forests. You know, they're essentially forest species. These guys fill the niche out here with the baboons, and then into our forest lands we do have one other species of monkey called the Simango monkey, and I think that the trophic, or the feeding niche, is probably just filled by other animals. You know, largely fruit eating. So we've got bats that eat the fruit. We've got thousands of birds that eat the fruit. Yeah, it's a very good question. So, I mean, the greatest monkey concentrations happen in the Congo Basin. That's where you'll get the greatest diversity of monkey and primate species. So I guess it's probably got to do with the lack of forest. Sounds like some elephants just up ahead there. Now just look at that monkey's cheeks are full of fruit and trying to peel the sort of nasty skin off. And when they're ripe, they're not very juicy, but they're sweet, and you just kind of squeeze the skin and they pop into your mouth, and they're really quite delicious. A bit like bananas, actually. But Keaton, I'll try and find you one. I just don't want to frighten them out of the tree. So let's go round. We'll go round to Twin Dams and see if there are some elephants there. It's a very nice sighting of monkeys. Now, don't move. Don't move, everybody. Inhale. Eggsy, are you static? I am now going to perform a great risk to myself. For such is my commitment to this cause. At great personal risk to myself, everybody, I've retrieved you a grasshopper. That's left. Hang on, wait. I'll get it again. You didn't see it. I missed it. Oh no. Hang on, one more try. I can't believe it. I caught the damn thing. Right, here we go. It's so incredibly camouflaged. It's brilliant. I think I've got it. Oh. I've caught it twice and it keeps getting away from me. Last attempt. I can't see it anymore. Sorry about that, but I mean, it looks just like the sand. Amazing grasshopper. You probably don't believe me. I don't believe you. I probably wouldn't believe me either. Let's go and see if those elephants are around the corner. Sorry about that, everyone. I'll do better next time. Scrabbling about for a grasshopper. Sandhopper, probably more accurate. We can drive a little bit more quickly around here, but while we do that, let's go and get an update from Jamie on her leopard tracking.
There are times when I am exceptionally jealous of what you get to witness on your screens, because I would have loved nothing more than to see James launch himself in a what sounds like a very controlled fashion off the vehicle and go in search of a grasshopper. I do wish I could have seen that. Thoroughly entertaining. Oh, just a quick update. I'll try and find you a nice set here. This we found this morning, but to give you a nice sense of scale, I can't give you a nice sense of scale because they have all been driven over. I'm sorry. There is an old set of mail tracks. I say old, they were from this morning. Herbert and myself found them, but unfortunately, due to repeated vehicle action in this area, they have been obliterated. Oh well, that's what happens. It's actually a good thing because it means that when we do see tracks, we know if they're fresh or if they're not. But I wanted to try and... Okay, just listening to the updates from the Game Drive channel. She tried to catch some Impala, according to Herbert. She's now still moving back towards the Ballinites junction. But what I wanted to show you was just how much bigger a male's tracks are, just with my hand as a sense of comparison. Because it is relatively easy to tell the difference between a male and a female leopard's tracks, just in terms of size. And so, for now, we will keep searching for other things to show you, especially since Herbert is hot on the tracks, which gives us an opportunity to stop once again, in theory, although they seem to be evading us. Aw, come on, guys. Some dwarf mongoose. They were right next to the road, but they have all ducked away. Hello. It's okay. This is another relaxed group because they sit right, or a lot of their den sites or their burrow sites sit right on a main road. This is Gowrie Main. It's our southern boundary. This is where Shadow spends a great deal of her time in a property known as Hoffman's. Hello, guys. Basically what these chaps will do is they'll move between different burrow sites each day so that they've always got a safe bolt hole to disappear into if the threat should emerge. And they'll move between them, very often returning to the same spot each night, but it's very difficult to predict exactly where they're going to go unless you've seen them go to bed in the evening, unless you see them basking in the last few rays of the light. Very difficult to predict exactly because there's lots of termite burrows around them to predict exactly which one they go to. Thus, continue on. If I spot them for you, if they haven't been driven over, then I will be able to show you how big, oh, Shadow's Cub's tracks are looking. Goodness gracious. That vehicle doesn't look like it has a driver at all. It must do, of course, since it is mobile very rapidly in our direction. Bye. There was a person driving it, just by the way. It wasn't unmanned. One thing we might do, which I think might be quite nice, is to pop into Red Dam and just see how the hyenas are doing in their consumption of the buffalo. In the meantime, James is definitely on a roll this afternoon and has gone up into a tree.
Hello everyone, I have climbed up the tree in order so that I might show you what a jackalberry tastes like. There are one or two over here. Here is one. And it is getting sweet actually. This one is relatively ripe. But it's not delicious. I shall not tell you a lie. I'm just going to remove the skin like the monkeys were doing and see if that makes it any better. Look at really horrible. See if we can find a slightly riper one here. So not very good, Keaton, at this stage. No, they're pretty hard. I do think that we should feed one to Eggsy, though. Now, here you are, Eggsy. Oh, I dropped that one. I'll throw one to Eggsy and then I shall attempt to climb out of this tree. But they are all over here, and I mean, this tree will produce, I don't know, I wonder how many tons of fruit. Here you go, Eggsy. It's landed just next to him, he dropped it. Okay, I'm going to attempt to climb out this tree. Let's see what happens. We may or may, whoop. A scale of 1 to 10, how scared did that make you, Eggsy? A 5 only. Oh, well, that's all right. That's not too bad. A little bit nervous. In fact, absolutely terrified. Eggsy, I have fallen out of one tree while live, but I managed to stop myself plummeting all the way to the ground. There we go. Now the next bit's quite tricky, mainly because the tree is surrounded at its base by a common spike thorn, which by its very nature of its name is filled with spikes and thorns. And I will therefore be in quite a substantial amount of pain by the time I actually reach the ground. Indeed, they are sticking into my bottom as we speak. This is very painful. Ha ha ha. Oh, that ain't good. Oh dear. But of course, for SafariLIVE, sacrifices must be made. There we are. So that's the jackalberry fruit, everyone. Monkeys have all been watching from the ground behind us. They've gone now absolutely astounded by the ineptness of this current primate. Connor, you have asked a very good question. You're just 6 years old, and you're obviously a very clever 6-year-old. You say, do jackals eat jackalberries? Yes, they do. And indeed, something called a side-striped jackal, which is quite common in some parts of this area. We've only seen 2 or 3 here. You get them more on Cheetah Plains off to the east, where it's a bit more open. But they love jackalberries, and that's why they get their name. Yeah, that's the side-striped jackal. Now, Eggsy, no, never mind. There was another brown-hooded kingfisher sitting there, but it's gone. This is where the Nyala bit it yesterday. It was killed by, I nearly said murdered. It was killed by 3 wild dogs here. And of course I'm reminded of the question we were asked this morning, which was slightly disturbing. If you were to murder someone out here, would the predators eat it and before the authorities could get to you? This was a disturbing question because I'm not sure why it was asked. Anyway, there's a Natal Franklin, there we go. No, it's just run away, Eggsy, you missed it, I'm afraid. Bad luck. Natal spur fowl. Now here's where the Nyala was killed. Nothing left. It was devoured by the dogs for a while. They left quite a lot of it. Then the vultures descended in great numbers. White-backed vultures, probably about 50 of them. And they finished it off. Otherwise, I feel like we've done a pretty extensive search of the Mulwati drainage. Oh, Ben, hello to you. You're just 14 years old, a budding young naturalist, and you say, will baboons and vervets be found in the same tree together? It's very unlikely, Ben, and that's because baboons are much bigger. Baboons are also fairly omnivorous, and baboons will kill a monkey. If they can get hold of it, they'll kill it and they'll eat it. So, yeah, it's very unlikely that you'd ever find them feeding together. A termite mound or an elephant? It's an elephant. Wonderful. Let's go and have a look at the elephant there. There's much tracking of that leopard going on, so between Taxon, Aubrey, Hubert and the inimitable elegant antelope, well, if that leopard escapes them, I'll be most surprised. Right, there's an elephant there, so let us go along this semi-wall. And see if we can see it. Sun right in our eyes at the moment. Oh, look, 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 look. It's breaking off bits and bits of the Balanites tree or the torchwood tree. Marcella, you're interested in whether elephants sleep standing up or lying down. It really does depend on the age of the elephant. I'm just moving slowly because if we stop here, you're going to be looking straight into the sun, so I'm just going to try and get around him. This is a bull I don't think I know. He's got a tusk on the left that faces straight down. He's also got a fairly substantial obviousness showing that he is a bull. I think that's probably the best we're going to get for now, everyone. We'll try and get the other side of him just now. Youngish bull, probably about 25, and he will sometimes sleep lying down. It is possible. They don't like to sleep lying down too much because their organs are so very heavy, and so they push against themselves and the blood pools, and that's quite dangerous for them. And you see that very odd-shaped tusk. If you saw a human being with teeth like that, what would you say? You would say that they could eat an apple through a tennis racket. I always think that's quite unkind, but quite amusing. Now, the fruits of this tree are toxic, so you couldn't eat them, but the elephants love them. They're not good for us, but Ellies can eat them. And I wonder if he isn't in a bit of must. Doesn't seem to be dripping from that fairly impressive appendage hanging between his legs. In fact, ooh, he seems to be injured there. He is dripping. He is in must, everyone. So must, I haven't seen a must bull for a while, so I'll just quickly explain again what it is. It's the sort of heightened time of testosterone that males have. And what happens is they drip. If you look at the inside of his leg there, you can see it's moist. And he's been dripping urine probably for a few days now. And the end of his penis was very red and raw, quite possibly from the vegetation that he's been dragging. And now he's reaching up into this tree. Watch this. Now, sometimes elephants will even stand on their back legs. He's not quite having to do that yet. Now he's turned to face us. You always want to be a little bit careful around a must bull elephant. They can be frustrated by the excess testosterone in their bodies. He doesn't look particularly irritated by us. But I'm not going to start the engine until he's sort of moved off. You may well push this trio now. Please don't. Oh dear. This is impressive, but it's not nice to see. Oh dear. There it goes, everyone. Oh. Really? Was that necessary? Unbelievable sound, yeah. Now you better eat that. Don't you dare just stand there like that. Not eat it. Go on. I can't help thinking that what he's doing there is giving us a sign of his strength. You know, as opposed to just pushing it over for something to eat. He's frustrated. He's trying to show how strong he is. Demonstrating it very well, I'd say. We might have to beat a hasty retreat at some stage. But normally if we just sit, it'll be fine. Now he's definitely interacting with us. So I'm going to lower my voice. And you can see that he's moving his legs from side to side. That trunk over the tusk is pretty classic must bull behavior. We've finished that now, see? Now I think you'll find that he probably hasn't actually killed that tree. He's just pushed it over. Oh, she's an impressive fellow, this. What do you think, Eggsy? Like him? I think he's older than that. No, maybe about 30. But that tusk is really quite something. Hello, Devi in Vancouver. Interesting one from you about elephant eye colour, and you say they all have brown eyes. Devi, yes, as far as I know they do. It's the only colour I've ever seen them with. I haven't heard any records of them being other colour. That's a beautiful shot. Very nice. Oh, Eggsy, you get 20 points for that effort. Now, it's not the. You might see the aerials. You might see the aerials coming into the picture here. I don't want to start the engine though with him so close unless we want to move away, because the engine does make a bit of a roar. That's pretty close. I'll just sit quietly, everybody, and make a noise. I don't think he's feeling aggressive. Doesn't look aggressive. He does look unspeakably large. Now I'm going to ask Eggsy here to just describe to us in one word what he felt as this behemoth elephant stinking of that sort of urine that they make during this must time came to within 2 meters of us. That's just over 6 feet. Eggsy, one word.
Yeah, I'm speechless.
Speechless. That was fantastic. It was an amazing experience. I couldn't even get a proper picture there, you know, everyone. He was too close. My camera wouldn't focus. It could have been the shaking of my hands there. This is wonderful. We have a question all the way from Romania. Crad, you're in Romania, and you want to know about elephants' predators and how often they're hunted by other animals, and are they good at defending themselves? Crad, they are very good at defending themselves. They've got those tusks. They're in the herds. The herd structure means that the females will be extremely defensive of any youngsters, or in fact any animals that are attacked within the herd. But Crad, they're not often hunted out here. It does happen from time to time that lions will hunt them, especially in drought conditions, but normally that happens in a place like Botswana, not here. I've got no records of an adult elephant being killed by lions in this area. It would only be lions, Crad, that could kill a big elephant, or maybe a giant a giant clan of hyenas, but otherwise that would be all that could affect an elephant like this. Very nice question. Lovely to hear from you. Thank you. That's a wonderful sighting, everybody. And Sarah, speaking, I mean, that elephant obviously came very close to us, and you were obviously on the drive when Scott had that experience with the hole in the ear elephant. He has a big hole in his left ear, I think, and he came and he touched Scott's vehicle twice. And Sarah, you want to know if he's been seen recently. Sarah, he hasn't. He went off to the Manileti and then seemed to disappear, so I don't know where he's gone, but he hasn't come down here for a while. It was a fascinating experience that we all had there with that elephant. He wasn't particularly nice to us. But at the same time, while he was, I mean, he wasn't overtly aggressive, but I mean, a curious elephant is a scary thing. I'm tempted to move slightly forward just so that we can get behind the light a bit, but maybe we should just sit here. He's relaxed completely with us now, you know. Alright, let's go and quickly get an update from Jamie, and I'll move and see if we can't get a slightly better view of him.
Oh, I have just changed for now and abandoned our search for Shadow. Not abandoned. I have temporarily moved on from the Shadow. I've left both William, Aubrey and Herbert all searching for her, because while I was looking, I passed Tristan on the road, who said it was absolutely worth making our way across to Red Dam and having a look at what's happening here. For those of you who missed out on the sunrise safari, it looks as though the hyenas, and it might be, I think it's the hyena clan of Elephant Plains, killed a buffalo in Red Dam, and they've been feeding off it, and now there's apparently a whole collection of vultures there as well. So let's go and have a look at that. We've just been called into the sighting, and we're heading through to there, and then we'll go straight back and carry on our search for Shadow. Thank you very much.
Thank you. How are you?
Good, and you?
I'm good, thanks.
Hi, guys.
Good,
Thanks very much. That poor man, I don't know what he just said. I got so distracted by several things happening at once. While we make our way into the sighting, let's go back over to James and see how his very big grey creatures are.
going to be quiet again, everyone. We did move the car. And then he walked off to the side of us. He's now facing us, obviously. He's not giving any overt signs of discomfort or aggression. But he is full of testosterone, so we don't want to challenge him. He's about 2.5 meters from us. That's 7 feet. You can see the VR rig. And you can also possibly see the urine now dripping from him. It's amazing. And the smell of it is quite pungent. It's funny, you know, as we started the car and we moved away from him, it's almost like he thought, well, where are you going? I'm a bit bored. I quite like having you around. Let's spend a bit more time together. That's basically what Xander's face is saying right now. Alright, brilliant stuff. Jamie's at Red Dam with that hapless buffalo and quite a lot else. You smell that?
Look at this amazing sighting. Everywhere we look, from the surrounding trees to the dam itself, wow, that's a lot of vultures. Definitely worth changing our route for, ever so slightly. And one hyena that refuses to give up the kill. This is absolutely incredible to witness. There must be about 50 vultures around us, and at the same time they haven't managed to get in to have the meal that they are so eagerly anticipating. It is the gathering of the scavengers of this area. Lots and lots of white-backed vultures, a couple of hooded vultures as well with their slightly thinner beaks, and a couple of incredibly round-bellied hyenas. This is an absolutely stunning sighting. Really, truly spectacular. Hyenas everywhere. Vultures everywhere. Just listen for a moment at they sort of fighting, squabbling amongst each other. Oh, and it smells. It smells here, but it doesn't smell like rotten meat. Look at that. The sea of vultures parts to let the hyena come through. Oh, wet feet, wet feet. As I said, squabbles between vultures, hyenas. This is truly spectacular. And every now and again, the flick of a hyena tail sends water spraying everywhere. So as I said, it smells, but it doesn't smell like rotting meat. It smells like birds. It smells like a really gross aviary. Absolutely, Charlie. Definitely not a sighting to come to if you're afraid of birds. And Charlie has said that it is like a Hitchcock movie. Absolutely it is. That's a perfect description. I wonder if the hyenas feel that way as well, as they dodge. Oh, don't mess with the hyenas. Don't get too close to their carcass. This is truly spectacular. I don't think I've ever seen a gathering of quite so many vultures in one place. Just lying down. Don't worry, vultures. So, Red Dam has become the place for this meeting of the scavengers. Exhausted hyenas, busy with the process of digesting and crunching away, one of them still determinedly picking away at pieces of meat. I definitely don't recognize these hyenas straight away, which immediately makes me think they're not from our clan. And then some very patient vultures, as they always are, waiting for their chance to pick up the scraps. And there you have one of the potential reasons why hyenas will drag their kills into a dam like this. It's something that I've never thought of before. We spoke about it earlier, about the fact that it might hide the scent of the kill from other scavengers, and at the same time they might like the taste of the soggy meat. However, have a look at this, because I think this is quite a good approach to keeping the vultures at bay. They are quite comfortable with getting their feathers wet, but there's nowhere for them to land. There's no way. They don't want to become bogged down, so they'll wash themselves in the water, but they don't want to go wading in. There's no way that they can perch and scavenge off that carcass. And thus the hyenas have the perfect, almost the equivalent of locking a fridge. Nothing can get through to them. So most of these are white-backed vultures that you're seeing in front of you, which is the most common of the vulture species that we get out here. Common is a word we need to use carefully, though, because most of our vultures, just like most of our big birds of prey, are relatively endangered in their own way. So whilst they might not be critical just yet, they are definitely an animal species that needs to be protected. And whilst they may not be as pretty as looking as lion cubs, or perhaps a sort of striking batalier, they do serve a very, very important function. Look how full some of their crops are, so they have managed to eat. You'll see every now and again there's the bulging parts of them in front, just below their necks, that I think might be full with food, so perhaps they did manage to snack. All of you taking some amazing screenshots, and thank you for that. It is a truly spectacular scene. And seeing these scavengers all relatively comfortable with each other. And as I said, these hyenas were probably responsible for killing this buffalo. That seems to be the case. They didn't steal it from anybody else. It was their kill. And the hyenas of the elephant plain clans. Oh, vulture fight. I'm big and intimidating, and hopping around like a vulture out of the Jungle Book. Look at that! Gallop towards the water's edge. Don't they just remind you of those animated ones from the original Jungle Book version? The ones that I think were meant to look like the Beatles or something similar. And while our hyena strides off to think about coming for more food, Mitzi, no, unlike the wild dogs, hyenas do not eat meat and then regurgitate it for their cubs. Though they do actually have a much longer lactation period than almost any other predator out here, which is one of the theories for the reasons of the females being larger than the males and they're having better access to food. What they will do is once the cubs get to an age where they will start feeding on meat, then they will drag bits of the carcass back to the den site. Only if they are higher ranking females, then they will drag food back. If they're a lower ranking female, then they will try and suckle their cubs for as long as possible before eventually having to risk taking them through to a kill site like this or a place that they have scavenged. But they'll try and wait until the cubs are at least 6-8 months old, when they are boisterous and strong enough to survive any potential other predators that the carcass might have attracted. Oh, panic! Running away from the hyena. They've obviously been chased around a few times. Now, as they are dashing around, our beard has noticed that they don't seem to be terribly worried about the vultures attacking them. And our beard, you wondered why that might be. Well, it's not because the vultures wouldn't attack them, because the hyenas wouldn't attack them, because they might. They definitely might. That being said, they only really do it when the vultures get a little bit too close to them. So the vultures know that as long as they keep their distance... How's it? How are you? Good, thank you. As long as they keep their distance, then they are not in any danger. It's only really lions that have been known to take a serious swipe at a vulture. There's very rare cases of a vulture underestimating a hyena and getting caught out. Oh, dinner and a drink. on this beautiful afternoon. And it's not just our... You're getting nice and comfortable there with your full belly. This is awesome. It's not just the vultures and the hyenas, actually. There are other birds of prey that do scavenge, and one of them is here right now as well. Definitely more attractive than our bald-headed vultures are. Looks like a pale morph, a tawny eagle to me, has also joined in the party, hoping perhaps to pick up some scraps. Not a bird that could compete with the other vultures in terms of strength or size, but it does know that as long as it plays its cards right, it might be in for a couple of tidbits of meat. It's an absolutely beautiful scene. Really, truly incredible. And then all of them keeping their feathers neat and groomed, making sure that they haven't got any scraps of dirt stuck to them. They are actually quite fastidious creatures, vultures. They will go and rinse themselves off after they've been feeding, and of course their bald heads are a way of, well, not completely bald, but the reduced feathers on their head is because it's a way of reducing the amount of basically just muck that clings to their head when they do feed, when they do manage to get their heads into a carcass. And they will, as I said, go and wash themselves off. Oh, where are we going with this? Oh, gross. It's definitely not for those of you who are particularly sensitive of stomach. The meat's taken on, vulture shove at the same time. The meat has taken on a pale, very unpleasant pink-looking colour, as it does when it's soaked in water. And I've seen some incredible sightings like this, where the hyena have managed to drag something into a dam. They'll often be seen sticking their heads right under to get to the meat that they're after. I wonder if those vultures are not wondering how on earth they might be able to get a snack. What's the collective noun for vultures again? Is it a wake? A kettle, that's it. A kettle of vultures, which is utterly absurd. I feel as though a wake is a better description. Oh! This is very, very common in these mass vulture sightings. And what you'll find is that once one male has taken his turn, the next will come and join. So this is really very common to see. And it's quite a noisy experience. Because I've seen this before, and I've actually seen 5 males mate with a female in the space of under 5 minutes in a very similar fashion. Look at them, they seem to be lining up. That's incredible. This is such a special vulture sighting. I saw this once with a dead giraffe, where the vultures basically filled their time mating with each other. I suppose. Social gathering. The hyenas are definitely boss in this situation. No vulture wants to run the risk of falling victim to those powerful jaws. What have they found there? Is that the stomach contents? It looks like it might be. They're definitely all after something. So the hyenas, like all of the other predators, will pull the stomach contents out, because the stomach contents behind that is where all of the most nutritious parts of the kill sit. So the liver, the heart, the lungs, all of the internal organs are the most nutritious parts. So even hyenas will pull out the stomach contents of their prey. And they're generally quite, wasteful when they do that, which means that the vultures for now are actually trying to take advantage of whatever stomach lining they can find in that pile. Oh, coming back again. And once again the sea of vultures will part before the striding hyena. The other one's gone straight to sleep. I need to sniff at one of the others. Now this is something... Oh, hello. That was playful. That was sheer playfulness and bonding between the two. That's an invitation to play. Oh, how very interesting. Coming for a drink, I imagine. I don't think this buffalo will get lucky this afternoon, but this will be very interesting to see the way that this plays out. Like all water-dependent animals, they come through about once a day to drink. You definitely, Mr. Buffalo, you definitely don't want to come to Red Dam. The sight that shall meet your eyes is a gruesome one indeed. A fallen comrade in the water. He's gonna do it though. Watching carefully, he probably at this point doesn't realize exactly what's going on. The hyenas are not a threat at this point. They're not displaying predatory behavior, and they're not a threat to a bull of this size. The buffalo that they've killed seems to be relatively young. So for now, he is not too worried, and actually a little bit curious as to what might be happening here. Wow, look at that belly. It's huge. So full of buffalo. There's a bit of a vulture skirmish happening. What did they find? Did they find a scrap of meat? Because now they're all racing across there. I think they must have. I think there must be a piece. They must have found something there. A scrap perhaps that none of them had realized before. This is an absolutely amazing sighting, and now all of the vultures have raced forward to get at whatever it is, and because they are so busy fighting over it, the one that actually originally found it hasn't managed to gobble all that much down. It's been... There you go, there's just a scrap of meat there. Oh no, did it go in the water by any chance? I don't know where to look. Oh, now the hyena wants to come and investigate what's going on. What you guys doing? What have you found? Why wasn't I aware of this? I want some. Or vultures discovering that a dam wall is not all that easy to fly up and around when you're that big and bulky. This is so amazing. I just don't know where to look in this sighting. Hyena, I think, has arrived too late to grab at whatever particular scraps these vultures managed to find. I don't know what on earth they got. Racing off ahead. Here comes the buffalo bull. It's all happening here at Red Dam. Isn't it really, truly amazing? And I'm not sure if you can hear it, but every now and again one of the... Oh! Just goes to show, look. Watch the way that this buffalo bull descends towards Red Dam. They're surprisingly nimble animals, although I think this particular bull might have really the wrong path to go. This looks like a bad idea. Yep, I think he agrees with me, as does his friend, who is watching on. absolutely incredible. The buffalo bull has now trapped himself. Thanks, cheers guys. Just say goodbye to some of the other people on the back of the vehicle. And the hyena's doing a quick gentle sniff as part of their normal social bonding. And James Richard was wondering on the subject of, well, hyenas and vultures. He was saying that we have seen vultures eat lion scat before. Would they do the same to hyena scat? Yes, absolutely, and in fact more regularly so, because it provides particularly for nesting females, it provides a very important source of calcium, much like the tortoises do as well. So vultures absolutely will eat hyena scat, make use of whatever it is they can find from it. What I was talking about earlier before I got distracted, our buffalo has decided to go a different route. There goes the other one coming running along. Let's reposition ever so slightly to watch this so we've got everything in view. Because the buffalo still haven't chosen the easiest descent. Can you hear the sound of the wings as they flap overhead like that? It's absolutely incredible. These vultures are such enormous birds. And there we go. Our buffalo, seemingly unperturbed by the gruesome scene in front of him, has decided this is the perfect spot for an afternoon drink, whilst the hyena continues to feast upon another buffalo, and the vultures wait patiently in the wings. And yes, absolutely, that's a really good point from Madeline that I hadn't thought about, which was whether or not the terrapins will eat the submerged part of the buffalo. And yes, they will. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't swim around there and pick up the scraps. They would have to try and make sure that they avoided the hyena's attention. But that being said, even a hyena might have misgivings about tackling a terrapin with their foul-smelling secretions. But that's a very, very good point. I can't believe I didn't even think about that. And now, the vultures have gathered around a pile of elephant dung, searching for termites, presumably. So there you go. There's behavior that you don't see every day, or indeed ever. An absolutely incredible sighting. One of the things I do want to do is just hop onto the Game Drive channel. We're not going to leave here just yet, obviously, but I do want to just hop onto the Game Drive channel and chat to Herbert. So for now, let's go across to James for a quick update.
She'll be lucky to get hold of Herbert, everybody. I think he's kicking back with the cold one at this stage. He's walked that place flat and come up with no leopard, I'm afraid. I think that's the update anyway. And Taxon and Aubrey said there are some zebras. They are walking through the woodland. That is stating the completely obvious, of course. But they are quite some distance from us. We left our elephant bull, by the way, going to find a friend. We saw a friend of his off towards the east, and they went into some thick bush next to the Mluati drainage line. And so we didn't follow him. Then, off to the right-hand side, the pelage is glowing in the golden setting sunlight. There's some impalas. Sorry, not the right-hand side, Zander. No wonder you look confused. Sorry, Eggsy. We have some impalas there on the left, not the right. Very nice. Look how beautiful the colours are. Interesting, Bethany. You have been watching for a while, I think, and you said any of the mammals change colour with the seasons. Now, As far as I understand it, no, they don't. Well, they certainly don't out here. There might be a slight lightening of the coat during the winter time when it gets a bit thicker. I think the winter pelage tends to be slightly lighter, but it's very slight. Then, I mean, I'm assuming you're talking about things like Arctic foxes, for example, which have different colors during the snowy months and different colors when there isn't any snow. Now, the temperature and the landscape doesn't change sufficiently here, I don't think, for it to warrant such changes in camouflage. Very nice question, that. Thank you, Bethany. And they're eating some of that really good, I think, dry Cambritum forage that I read about earlier today. Right, let's just pop onto the treehouse dam wall, which is not far from here. See if we come up with anything there. It's just over here. Now, I don't know if anyone's told you this, everybody, but there's a very special surprise coming this next week. And I'm going to give you the surprise now. Well, I'm not going to give it to you. I'm going to tell you about it. This next week, we're doing a whole lot of broadcasts to Australian schools. Now, of course, we have a favourite Australian here at SafariLIVE. Well, he's our only Australian, but he's still our favourite Australian. And that, of course, is Mr. H.T. Hayden Turner. And Hayden will be coming in for the course of the next week. And he's going to be talking to the kids in Australia, and he'll be sort of slotting into the drive rotation with the rest of us. And I think it's going to be marvellous to have him here. Nice fresh perspective on things. He hasn't been here for some time now, so it'll be great to have him back. And so that's something really to look forward to next week. And I think we're going to be talking to over 100 schools associated with the Taronga Zoo in Sydney. And just check out our blog page tomorrow. There'll be a blog describing exactly how it's all going to work. But essentially, as far as I'm aware, the only thing that will change is the morning drive will shift half an hour earlier, so we'll start at 6 and go to 9, and the afternoon will remain exactly the same. So it'll be 6 to 9 and 3 to 6, which has a sort of symmetry about it that I quite like. So just half an hour earlier, but check out the blog and we will remind you during the course of the weekend before all of that stuff starts. That's just for the week next week. Then we'll be back to normal. We will hopefully have 3 feeds for all of those drives, so bushwalk and 2 drives. HT on one of the cars and then one of the rest of us on vehicle or on foot. And I believe you're all very excited about that. Well, that's good. So you should be, I suppose. We're all quite excited too. Right, we're going to ease up onto the cut line here, head off towards where the shadow tracks were, not holding out great hope. But while we do that, Jamie is still with the hyena and the beefalo.
My plan is definitely to head back to where the last tracks of shadow were, but I cannot bring myself to leave the scene just yet. It's just so incredibly fascinating watching the dynamics at play, watching the different ways that the vultures interact with each other, interact with the hyenas, dodge them. And then a very good point that was raised by VM, which was just how clumsy vultures truly are in flight. That they're adapted to soaring high in the air. Oh, it was a bit of a skirmish there, resulting in a displaced vulture looking for another dead tree to settle in. See that very clumsy flapping, which is why I mentioned the sound of their wings as they move through the air. It's a deep whoosh, 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 whoosh sound, particularly when they fly overhead. They're heavy birds. They're heavy and they're not very agile, and compared to our light soaring heron that has decided to bypass his spot and perhaps search for... No, here he comes. He's just doing a much more graceful landing. Plop. Perfect. 10 out of 10. 9 out of 10. He put 1 foot out of place for that particular landing, compared to the vultures that kind of have the dung beetle approach to landing, which is just, well, if I aim roughly in the right place and absorb the impact with my feet and run a little bit, I should be fine. It's the crash landing approach. And as I said, dung beetles do it as well. They haven't quite got the landing mechanism figured out, and neither do vultures. Adapted, they are one of the birds that can fly the highest of all of the bird species. They're Ruppel's vulture, or the Ruppel's griffin, depending on whether or not you know that name, is recorded at flying at a height of 32,000 feet, roughly the height that a commercial jetliner will fly at. And that's what they're adapted for. Long periods spent in the air with those broad wingspans. When I say broad wingspans, you're probably looking at about 2 meters, wider than my arm span for the white-backed vultures, that catch the thermals and hold the bird up without them even having to try. Oh, so aggressive with each other sometimes. Unexpectedly so. Sometimes they're perfectly content to shuffle around each other, and then other times they're, I don't know, there's something about them that provokes each other. And they run around for a bit. No, that's it. No more action there. Patiently picking around, seeing whatever else they can find. They truly are fascinating animals. They're an animal that is under severe threat in South Africa for a very unfortunate reason. Yep, there you go again. Getting cross with each other for no apparent reason. The hyena continues unconcerned, munching at the buffalo. But what I was going to carry on and say about the vultures was the fact that in South Africa there is this belief in some of the local communities that a vulture can bring you the power to see into the future, because there's a lack of understanding about the way in which vultures find their food and the way that they use their eyesight. There goes a hooded vulture in the middle of your screen going towards the water. The idea is that they predict where carcasses are going to be, because nobody quite, or there's a lack of understanding about the way that their eyesight works and how good they are at spotting things from their extreme height up in the air. And so this has eventually led to the idea that the vultures will, if they can see into the future, well, obviously, if you make a potion of their brains or sleep with a head under your pillow, therefore you will be able to see into the future, which for desperate people and unscrupulous traditional medicinal practitioners, I use that term very loosely, but they can take advantage of desperate poor people, particularly with the establishment of the National Lottery. People desperately trying to get hold of these vulture trophies or potions to try and be able to predict the lottery numbers. And so what happens is that carcasses get poisoned. The carcass will be put out, poisoned, a cow or whatever it happens to be, cow, and that can kill 200 vultures in one go. And those that survive, because the poison that they use is fat stored, those that survive, as soon as they get a little bit hungry, maybe go for a bit too long without a meal, immediately that poison takes hold once again as they start to metabolize their fat stores. That's something that is really important to raise awareness about, is the plight of the vulture. As I said, they're not attractive as lion or leopard cubs, but they do serve an incredibly important function out here. Although I must say this area is so smelly. It's such a different smell to the one I'm used to around carcasses.
Smells like wet hide.
Wet hide, yes, that's
Salted wet hide.
salted wet hide is what VM, of course, has always been far better at describing smells than myself. He is the originator of the description of an elephant bull in must being like rotten oros, which is a juice concentrate. Sour oros, sorry, sour oros. Get it right, Jamie. Sour oros. So VM definitely comes up with the better descriptions. The last smell I tried to describe was that of a water buck, and I said it smelled like wet animal, which, you know, really helps. Very descriptive. But VM definitely has a talent for it, so he's right. Salted wet hide is the smell that we're getting. I love the tail flicks from the hyena every now and again. And aviary. It really does smell like a dirty bird aviary to me as well. It was a beautiful flick. A circle of ripples from around the hyena. And Sarah, who is 18 years old, it's wonderful to have you as always. Sarah, from what I understand, but I can't answer all of your questions because I don't know exactly what happened here, but I'll do my utmost to answer them. As far as I understand, this is the part of the Elephant Plains clan, and this morning there were at least 14 hyena in this area. So yes, as far as I know, from what I've heard about the Elephant Plains clan, I've never seen them all together. I've seen 17 in one go, but never any more than that. But they have a reputation as being very large in number and having about 30 odd hyenas as a part of that clan. But that I cannot confirm, having never actually seen them properly all together. What you got there? Hyenas. Perfect. All lying up. These guys seem to have been feeding all night. I think they did kill this buffalo. I think my guess as to what happened here is that they chased this hyena, they chased the buffalo into the dam, surrounded it and wore it down until it was exhausted, and then managed to catch it in the water. There's not much water here, and hyena have never been afraid of getting their feet wet. So I imagine that they waded in and they can. Of course, hyena do hunt. In certain areas, they hunt up to 90% of their prey, depending upon where you are. Less so here, because we've got such a high concentration of lions, so they don't need to. But in certain areas, they hunt almost predominantly for their food source. As to the age of the buffalo, I think it's a young one. I think they probably cornered it. They probably hacked at the heels of the buffalo until they separated it and they cornered it here. I think it's young, but I honestly can't confirm that. It looks smallish to me, but then there's not really that much left on it for me to be able to confirm that. I don't think it was a fully grown buffalo bull. Let's put it that way. I think it might have been a sub-adult buffalo. But there I couldn't begin to tell you whether or not that was actually the case. Dragging it even further into the dam. There we go. There's a brief glimpse of its leg. It's a young bull. I mean, sorry, not a young bull, a young buffalo. I don't know if it was a male or a female, but it is young. Because although the rest of the leg is swollen from being soaked in the water, that hoof, to me, doesn't look like the size of a full-grown buffalo bull, or even a fully grown adult buffalo cow. Ew. It's such a weird smell. It just wafted over us in a fresh wave as the hyena repositioned the carcass. Yeah, I hope you're all feeling very prepared for dinner this evening. There goes the tawny eagle. Oh. Decided it's not worth the wait. A plethora of scavengers at Red Dam at the moment. The unfortunate thing, there we've got an active predator in the form of a grey heron plucking at the fish. I don't think it just got something. What did it get? What is that? That's a piece of buffalo meat. It is. It's a piece of the buffalo carcass that's floated away. Oh, now it's going to have to... And it dropped. Did it drop it or did the eagle get it? I'm so confused. I think the eagle caused it to drop it. My goodness, it's chaos at Red Dam. I don't think the eagle got it, but I think that the heron got such a fright that it dropped it in the water. I think that's why that eagle flew off in the first place. It's targeting the grey heron. Now the poor grey heron has lost its piece of meat and the water's so murky it doesn't know where it is. Ah, so the eagle's decided that if the vultures, it's not going to get past the vultures or the hyenas, it'll pick on somebody smaller. This is incredible. Might not have been a sighting of shadow, but it's definitely been worth paying a visit to Red Dam. Just to watch the end of the circle of life, in a way. Shame that poor heron. I feel quite sorry for it. All it did was pick up a scrap of meat. Is it going to find it again? Looks like it's given up, watching the eagle instead. I think it knows that if it gets that big chunk of meat, it can't swallow it whole, and as soon as it puts it in its mouth, that eagle's going to come back towards it and try and steal it. And the interesting thing is that tawnies are one of the first birds of prey to scavenge off leopard kills. Because they fly slightly lower than vultures, they've got a better chance of spotting them underneath the leaves of the trees that the leopards have stashed them in. The same goes for battaliers. And of course, what would a sighting be without a fork-tailed drongo fluttering about? Definitely wouldn't be a Sabi Sand sighting. And as I said, the tawny eagle and the battaliers are often actually responsible for leopards losing their kills to hyenas because they knock them out of the trees when they go to scavenge. I'm going to stretch the sighting as long as possible until we lose light. For now, let's go over to James, find out what his plans are and where he is now.
Look at that, everyone. Sorry to tear you away from the hyena, but from something pretty grim to something absolutely stunning. Isn't that nice? I think that is just so beautiful. And I am so now tempted, of course, to take many photographs of it and send them to my mother, who says I only take pictures of the sun. Hashtag. I think that's just too stunning for words. I'm not moving 1 inch until it's gone well below the horizon. And then we'll go back to the hyenas. I think Jamie's allowed to stay there for a bit longer. I mean, that truly is pretty spectacular, is it not? Oh. And our beard, you say, magnificent? Magnificent indeed, it is. I'm now taking a rank average photograph of it. Very nice. Now, with any luck, Shadow will walk. Well, I mean, if she had any manners, what she'd do is climb straight into that tree and lay herself upon a branch silhouetted against the setting sun. We'll just get a little bit closer in there. The sun has now gone. I still don't really want to move, to be honest, because that picture is just rather too pretty. You can hear some zebras alarm calling, but I think they're probably talking to each other. They've been alarm calling at each other just about all day long. There we go. We'll just take you a little bit close to the mountains there. It's also a very good idea to stop and listen around this time of the day. Just listening. I don't know. I don't think those zebra were alarm calling at anything other than each other. Yeah, it was the hardy-dars, the other thing that I heard. But we'll move around there into the clearings, just not too far from here, and have a look. Isn't that just too pretty for words. Are you still speechless, Eggs?
Mm-hmm.
He is. He just said, uh-huh, which I think in Cape Town speak means yes. But it might not. It's difficult to say. I'm just going to ask Kirsten how much time Jamie still has at that sighting. Because if she's going to have to move on... Okay, well, let's go across to her. If she was going to move on, I would have moved on too, so that we could have... But and because she is going to be there, we're going to go straight back across to her, and I'll wait here a little bit longer.
I think our time is indeed running out, because I don't want to spotlight the vultures. They are daytime birds, whilst it would be fine with just the hyenas here. With the vultures, it does mean that we can't sit with lights on. But the action is slowly calming down. We've got one courageous vulture, perhaps sensing the end of the day is upon him, has decided to strike out into the dam. No, just going to have a drink. No, too deep, too deep. And in the meantime, our hyena is still taking his pet buffalo carcass for a swim in the dam, munching away on whatever it can get its teeth on. I did have a very brief view of the head, well, proper view of the head with the horns. It is definitely a young buffalo, or it was. It is no longer a young buffalo, it is a deceased buffalo, but it was a young buffalo that this hyena killed, and again, pulling further and further into the center of the dam. And our intrepid vulture is still wading around, trying to see if perhaps there's a spot that isn't quite so deep in the dam itself, pretending to have a drink, or perhaps just having a drink on the side, maybe even looking for floating scraps of slightly rotten meat to feed on. It was a good decision to come here, though. It's an absolutely amazing sighting. Oh my goodness, it's still waiting. I think they've decided... Oh, no. I think that they're thinking that perhaps this will be their last opportunity, because they won't spend the evening on the ground. They will go up and roost in the dead trees around the area. And that's because one of the big reasons is that they're clumsy birds during the day, taking off and landing. At night they become even more ineffective, and it becomes even more dangerous for them. So they have to go and roost, which is why I think some of the other vultures, while our hyena drags the carcass even further into the middle of the dam, some of our vultures thought about wading into the middle. Look at that. Very gruesome. Not for the faint of heart, the weak of stomach. And our vultures, I think, have given it up as a slightly bad job. Most of them are now taking to the air. We've got a few determined stragglers going to see it out to the end. Well, more than a few, quite a few determined stragglers.
Heron's got something.
Which one's got one? Oh, the heron's got something. Bravo, heron! Well done.
It's a frog.
Is it a frog? It is a frog. Well, it might not have been the scrap of meat, but it's got a frog. Which it is really struggling with. A serious mouthful. I think the frog hasn't given up too easily. Here we go, and it's gone. Just like that. Our heron might not have got his scrap of meat after all, but he did get something to eat for his dinner. In this case, some poor hapless frog that's probably been dodging the attention of everything around him at Red Dam, perhaps regretting being at Red Dam in the first place. And slowly but surely, the vultures are doing their run-up, or casual jog to the water's edge. Oh, was that necessary? I think that this is a waiting game and a risk that the vultures took, and it hasn't been one that's going to be successful. They might have picked up a few scraps of meat. Most of them seem to be coming to the same conclusion. But Lynn, if the hyenas were to leave now, you want to know whether or not the vultures would come and drag the carcass out of the dam towards the water's edge. I don't think so. What they might try and do is settle on it. That's something I have seen, is vultures trying to land on a carcass in water to try and feed off it. But it would be very, very difficult, and probably some of them would end up quite bedraggled, as a whole host of vultures would descend, and the others, those that were sitting on the carcass, wouldn't be able to keep their footing. They wouldn't have the problem-solving ability, I don't think. I've never seen it in action, at least. I don't think they'd have the problem-solving ability to work out that they'd need to pull it to the shore. They'd have to work together. One wouldn't be strong enough to do that. And that's not something that their avian brains are capable of working out. Some very disgruntled-looking vultures, though. They've probably spent the whole day here hoping that perhaps there'll be a chance. But as I said, giving up. Sort of. Half-heartedly giving up. I feel quite sorry for them. I think they've very patiently waited all day, and it just hasn't paid off. And tomorrow, if we were to return here first thing in the morning, we would find a host of vultures, or a kettle, which is the correct pronunciation, the correct collective noun. I feel as though a wake of vultures to me is the best collective noun. A wake of vultures will be awaiting us at Red Dam before the day gets hot enough for them to take wing and start to use the thermals to look for more food. There's another grey heron coming in. Sorry, distraction. Huh. Nearly landed on our heron's head. Our heron's got something else. It's got its scrap of meat. And now the heron wants it. That's all happening here at Red Dam. Huh. Sorry, Mr. Heron. You arrived that little bit too late, and I think your buddy, or mate, I'm not quite sure which way around it went, will have been able... Oh no, look at that! There's lots of scraps of buffalo meat floating about in Red Dam, which is kind of gross when you think about it. Definitely not done the best for the water quality. Oh, that's a huge piece. How on earth are you going to manage that? Lucky for you, that tawny eagle has given it up and gone away. Ah, sorry, Dina. My mistake. Apparently it's a wake of vultures only when they are feeding. Fair enough. I guess that makes sense. And a venue from Rebecca in Fine Control is the collective noun for vultures waiting, and a kettle is the collective noun for a group of vultures flying. I'm glad we've got so many descriptive collective nouns for the different state of vulture, whatever state they happen to be in. That's very interesting. Thank you for that. I don't know, I still feel they look so morbid when they're all clustered round. It really does. I still feel that wake is a better description. Might not be the official term unless they're feeding, but I actually feel it's even more appropriate when they're waiting. They're enormous birds. They really are. You don't get a sense of perspective until they fly overhead. Shame. They're getting desperate. They know they're running out of light. No such luck. Though our vultures have been unsuccessful, and our heron is not actually proving to be that successful. Sorry, I'm trying to watch several things out of the corner of my eye. Vim's doing a fantastic job of keeping track of the red dam action. It just hasn't quite managed that giant piece of meat that's in its beak. And then there were 4, 5, 4 now, or about to be 4, 5, yes, counting. That went well. About to be 4 left. Contemplating. I think trying to figure out, because as I said, it's quite an energy expensive process for a vulture to take off and fly. What they often like to do is work out exactly where it is they're going to go first before disappearing. And I think that's what our friend here is doing. And at the same time making sure that it doesn't leave at the critical moment where success was just around the corner and the kill was about to be moved to the side of the dam, which isn't going to happen. Unfortunately. There he goes. Awesome, Vim. And then there were 4. 4 remaining stragglers. Oh, almost. Oh, is it going to be 3? No. The most determined of the group. Shame. And our hyena still having an amazing time. And a lovely point raised by our beard, which is that isn't it amazing how many species are benefiting or have benefited from the demise of one buffalo? Absolutely. It's always hard for us to watch when an animal dies, but it's important to remember that it never ever goes to waste. Although I feel as though these vultures feel particularly shortchanged, and then there were 2 determined stragglers. Some zebra fighting off in the distance. Oh, the 3rd has joined. Making their way away from the bowl of the dam and getting ready to head off. One more determined vulture. Sorry, buddy, not today. One last-ditch effort, having been abandoned by his fellows. You can see the desperation in his body language. Cannot believe it's wasted a whole day, or it cannot believe it's wasted a whole day, waiting for an opportunity to feed that never came. I think that's it, buddy. It's time for you to go. You're not going to get lucky here. Everybody's left you. The Lonely Vulture. Sounds like the title of a wonderful book. While I wait to see whether or not our Lonely Vulture takes wing, let's go to James for an update.
Hello, everybody. Nothing to report. Did do a little bit of a drive down the double M break. What's it called? The triple M break. The road between us and Arathusa. And I found nothing there, I'm afraid. So, I don't know where Shadow's gone. The wild dogs were found, by the way. Remember the ones we were chasing around today, or trying to see if we could chase around? They crossed the boundary, obviously went to Sydney's Dam sometime during the day. That's why we originally went to Sydney's Dam this morning. And they were found by Taxon They were found by taxon on Buffelshoek, and they went off into the Manileti, which is to the north of us. So that's what's happened there. Then we came around here hoping to find little Shadsy baby, but unfortunately Shadsy baby appears to have, well, given us the slip, as it were. Anyway, we'll see what other creatures of the night we can find. Let me retrieve my spotlight, which Zander was very concerned about earlier. Eggsy, sorry. He's very concerned because I had the spotlight there at the start of the drive, and he said, "Are you not worried about it?" I said, "No, I wasn't particularly worried about it." He says, "But if we find wild dogs, well, it could fall." Good point. Pity we didn't find any wild dogs. Hey, Eggsy? Yes. Poor old Eggsy's had about 75 nicknames in his 3 days of work. How long have you been here, Eggsy? Since Sunday. Since Sunday? Did you arrive the same day I did? Oh, I didn't realise that. I must have been suffering still from the after effects of my holiday. I'm sure I only noticed you on Monday. That doesn't say much for me, I must say. Well, now it's Friday, of course, the weekend. Eggsy, as you know, the weekends here are vastly different from the normal days. And the other thing that might or might not be around this particular area of the reserve is a serval. And the serval that Jamie had hunting was the one that lives around here. So maybe I'll be lucky there. To be honest, most likely not, but it's possible. I don't know where this leopard is. I think it's rather interesting. She's being rather shadowy, to be honest. And for those of you who are new viewers, Shadow, a 9-year-old female leopard. Hello, Sean. Oh, you've asked something of a controversial question here, one that my opinion will differ vastly from my colleagues. You say, why do we not name the animals in English over the radio? Well, some of us do. I do. I refuse to... ooh, hang on. Parlors, sorry about that. Most of the guides around here speak a kind of mixed Shangaan Zulu English, and it is, to my mind, a horrendous agglomeration of language that basically speaks to the laziness of people bothering to learn local languages. So I will only speak English on the radio, or I will speak Shangaan, but the other funny thing, game drive speak, I refuse to do. But the reason it's done like that is supposedly so that your guests don't hear what's been seen on the radio. Now, this has always struck me as utterly illogical, mainly because people who come to these reserves are not idiots. They wouldn't be here otherwise. They're not cheap to come to, which means that, you know, if you've got a certain level of wealth, often you've got a certain level of education. And secondly, they're out of the way. They're not obvious places to go. It's not like going to Ibiza in Spain. It's or to, you know, a sort of whirlwind tour of Europe that takes in the Leaning Tower of Pisa, Venice, and the Eiffel Tower in 2 days. I mean, you've got to know something about life to come here. Anyway, so to sit on a car and sort of say things like, "I have just found an ingwe," which means I have just found a leopard, just strikes me as a bit odd, because you've got educated people who are here to experience something. So my entire training was around the fact that we didn't ever do that. You always spoke English, you always told the guests what you were going to do, what you were going to try and find, and you'd include them in the tracking experience. So if somebody called in a lion on the radio, and the radio, they heard the radio, sometimes you try and keep it low so that it doesn't intrude on the drive. If it was close by, then you'd go and you'd show them. If it wasn't close by, then you'd say to them, I'm sorry, it's too far away, we'll try again tomorrow. Never ever once had a guest complain about that. Never once felt pressurized by a guest into going to something that I couldn't get to. So, yeah, I think it's just crept in. I think it's the throwover, to be honest, a throwback to the 80s that I really don't think is necessary. So, that's a long-winded sort of nighttime, not rant so much, but explanation as to why some guides use the Shangaan and or Zulu terms. Sometimes it's Shangaan, sometimes it's Zulu. It's all just a bit of a mix. Sometimes not even a word, like the word they use for wild dogs, madash. Nobody can tell me where that comes from. It's not a Zulu word, it's not a Shangaan word. So what it is, who knows? And it was likewise, we didn't like to, I've always been slightly off, like a major surprise, if you know what I mean. And it's different. I guess it's different doing what we do here, because it's quite nice to have a surprise every now and then. But for me, it's almost like saying, I'm trying to keep you ignorant. If you've got guests on the back of your vehicle, I'd far rather say, listen, you know, somebody else has found something, or found some lions. Let's go and have a look. I just found it was much more authentic. That's just for my personality, though. So, in a long-winded way, that's how my guiding evolved. I am possibly, in fact, I'm definitely in a vast minority. So, that's just how it is with me. Okay, let's go across to Jamie the antelope. Really sounds like an unbelievable sighting you've had there with her. So I'll get her to gush a little bit more about its magnificence with you now.
It was a truly magnificent sighting, it really was. To see that interaction on so many different levels is one of the really special moments that you get out here, and it's not often that you get to enjoy a sighting like that, where you've got so many elements at play. And of course, always a pleasure to see the spotted creatures as well, since our clan seem to have deserted us and moved north to Manuleti, or at least moved their den site to Manuleti. They're still around. Their tracks come backwards and forwards, but it's always a pleasure to see spotted hyenas at the same time. Now, speaking of spotted creatures, I've returned for the last few moments of the sunset safari to search for Shadow, in the vain hope that perhaps she might pop out of the bush and give you a last-minute glimpse of her before the end of the sunset safari, which she did for us very kindly yesterday morning, right at the end of the sunrise safari. I was hoping we might have a similar experience. Either way, though, rest assured that I will be back to this area to search for her at first thing, the crack of dawn, tomorrow morning on the sunrise safari. Now, just to finish off with a question that I know came through from Michael, and I got distracted completely and I never answered it, so I hope, Michael, that you're still watching. I know that it doesn't have to do, or that we're not with vultures anymore, but Michael wants to know about bearded vultures and how far south they occur. And the reason I've come back to that is I meant to talk about it, and then I kept getting distracted by what was going on. So the bearded vultures, or as they're also known here, the lammergeier, is a wonderful species of bird, and we actually have one of the southernmost occurring populations in the world. So it's actually quite widely distributed, I should say, right through Africa and up towards Europe. However, we've got a really tiny and very, very endangered, isolated population in a place called the Drakensberg Mountains. Now, we look out across the Drakensberg Mountains every time we look to the sunset. But in this particular instance, the population is a little bit further, because of course the Drakensberg stretch throughout South Africa. In this case, the population is a bit further into a place called KwaZulu-Natal. So further to the south and to the west of where we are now. But that is the southernmost population that occurs in South Africa, and I think it's actually the most southern the southernmost population in the world. Oh, there you go, just an answer to Michael's question. I'm sorry I got distracted, but I hope that he is still watching. Shadow. Kitty kitty. There's something over there, but I don't think it is a leopard. But there is something over there, and we're going to go and figure out what it is quickly. It's the right area and the right direction that she was heading in. Oh, no. Sorry. There's far too many eyes. Nope, it's a herd of impala. As soon as I saw more than one eye reflection, then I realized that was definitely not what we were going for. Well, there we go. In that case, we'll go back in this direction, since as far as we know, she didn't cross out of here. Perhaps she will be more successful with that herd of impala and manage to catch one while we're asleep, safely tucked away in our beds tonight. Another beautiful winter's day draws to a close, and I imagine when we go back to Red Dam in the morning that we will not have much in the way remaining in terms of that buffalo kill. Sorry about that, I thought I saw something. But it was my imagination. And so, while we go home, accompanied to imagined shapes in the darkness, or perhaps some real ones as well, it's time for us to say goodbye at the end of the sunset safari. So, a very big thank you to Viam for his fantastic camera work and keeping up with what was an incredible sighting, as well as to Kirsty and Rebecca in final control, and most importantly, a big and vast thank you, an all-encompassing thank you, an expression of gratitude to those of you watching across the world. I hope you had a marvelous sunset safari, and we will catch up with you tomorrow for the sunrise safari, hopefully with Shadow in tow. Bye-bye, everybody, and enjoy your day.
Well, here we are, everybody, the gentle smoke of... No, let me try that again. Well, here we are, everybody, the gentle smell of wood smoke filling our nostrils as we make our way towards a delicious meal, no doubt, cooked by the inimitable Amanda. It has been a very marvelous drive indeed. Hello, Gracie again. Thank you. 2 questions from you today. It's great. I'm so pleased to have had 2 questions from you. You want to know if Eggsy played in the circus like Brian. If you looked at him, you'd say he must still be part of the circus, Gracie, because he comes from Cape Town, and in Cape Town they dress like clowns. And so, yes, he looks like he played in the circus, but no, he didn't actually. Only Brian played in the circus, Gracie. Sometimes I feel like we're all playing in the circus. Yes, Gracie, it's very, very good to hear from you again, so you just keep talking to us. Just a minute left, everybody, of the Eggsy and James circus show. He's being very good sport about the names we've given him, I must say. Thankfully, he's about the same size as me, so he's not a physically intimidating human being. All right, everyone, that's going to be it from us today. Big thank you to all of you for coming on Drive, especially our new viewers. Thank you. And just to remind you, please tell us where you're from. We had someone from Romania today. What a joy that was. Thank you, Khanda, Eggsy, for all your efforts today. Big thanks to the final control of Kirsten and Rebecca, and of course to Jamie and Brian. We will see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock. No, we won't. 6:30. Bye-bye.